Who am I? Well, I am Victor Cruz, and I am also a spiritual tree. I'm an actor, writer, producer, director, animator. I don't think I had animator as part of that lineup. Yeah. Voice actor, and that's right, because it was before pandemic. So just really strengthened my skill set in recording audio and editing and a bunch of other stuff,
And another one too, I might fuck it up, but the speech thing, what is that? What's the title for that?
Oh, dialect coach.
See? You added 2 more titles since the last time we spoke.
2 more titles, baby. You know what I'm saying? Got them titles, baby.
So I want to jump right into it, right? For me, I remember during the pandemic, everything shut down. People were doing like Zoom comedy and all that stuff. Like all the creatives were trying to find a way, like, for a couple of things. Stay relevant, not be bored, find something creative. Like, especially if this is what you was doing on the stage all the time, is like they couldn't deal, I guess. I'm not gonna say everyone, but a good portion of people couldn't just deal with themselves, right? And just not doing anything. So they had to, and as an artist, especially if you're out there all the time, you got to find new ways to create, right? So then I remember just seeing video of Tita, and I was like so happy, and because I remembered this voice, and I remember us being in a car when you did the voice, and of course you did it before, through other people, but I remember being in a car with you like years ago while you was doing the voice, driving me and Cloud home. And I was just dying laughing. I remember you said, "Yeah, I got to do something with that." And I'm like, "Yeah, you should do something with that." It's like, I've always had this voice and I got to do something with it. And I was like, we were shooting this shit about ideas or whatever, stuff like that. And you just left us like, "I got to do something." Now cut to like the pandemic. Then boom, like Tita is born and all that stuff. And I'm seeing this thing and I'm like, "Oh my God, he used the voice. This is awesome." Finally. 2 things happened. I was so happy. I was inspired. And then I was like, also like, this motherfucker. Like, and it was like, this nigga found a way. I was like, Victor Cruz found a way right now. It's like nobody was ever counting you out, but it was always those things like, what's next, right? For Victor Cruz. Yeah. I know for me, like being inspired by you and following you and knowing your story, like that's always a thing for me of like, what's next for you? What are you gonna come out with now that pushes you or that you're passionate about? And then I see this, and it was a mixture of emotions. Happy, I'm inspired. I mean, I would never do an anime thing because I just don't have a passion for it. Maybe I'll do a voice for it, but just seeing you taking control of the situation and creating something out of pretty much nothing, a voice. And I was like, oh man, this is dope. And of course, you kept on releasing episodes, and everyone is like so excited about it. So I say this big long speech to say, like, that's awesome, man. I'm so proud of you. But I really want to know, and you probably shared this with other stuff, interviews, but I purposely didn't want to watch the creation of it because I wanted to hear it from you. Like, how was she born? What inspired this moment? How did it all click to be in this pandemic and be like, boom, I got this voice. I'm going to go into this. And then Tita was born.
Yeah. So originally it was, still a voice that I was doing. Sometimes I would do it in the car with you guys, or like I would prank people with the voice. I would call stores and prank them. And, and then at the top of pandemic, like you were saying, like everybody was trying to figure out, what to do. And I think it's interesting because I had the voice, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, I see what it was. Yeah. So I had ventured into like Fiverr.com just to find somebody who could build like a logo for me. And I found somebody, and then I found somebody who could animate the logo that was designed for me. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, well, what else does Fiverr.com have? And then I was like, do they have any animators? That was just
Mm.
like, oh, let me just see what people are doing. And so then I found like a couple of people that were like, oh, we're animators. And there was one guy that he was just like, I'll take your funny audio and I could turn it into an animation. And I'm one of those people, and I think you're like this too, where you will research something to death to
Yeah.
really understand like all sides of it so that make sure that it fits what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like you're kind of half-assing it, or you're not
Hmm.
asking enough questions. And so I found this guy, and I was looking at the animation. The animation was okay, right? But I was asking him like, "Oh, if I were to give you a design, can you then animate the thing for me?"
Hmm.
And he's like, "Well, I could try." What I'm saying? But I could create like original characters. Wasn't quite what like I wanted,
Yeah.
but I was considering him taking the audio and animating into whatever he was doing. But the more that I looked at his characters, the more I started to wonder, were these just like templates that he was manipulating, but they all kind of
Mm.
looked the same? Like there was nothing really original about it.
Gotcha.
And something you should know, I don't know if you know this, but like since I was a kid, like animating was one of my original dreams. That was actually what I wanted to
Didn't know
do.
that.
I used to draw cartoons. I wanted to be an animator early on and a comic book artist. And I also wanted to do what Mel Blanc did with Looney Tunes or Mike Judge with Beavis and Butthead. Like I wanted to
Mm.
voice all the characters. It was my original dream. And then eventually I got into acting and comedy. And then I got into like serious acting. And then suddenly the idea of animating kind of like went out the window. And I think I even told myself, like, even when I became spiritual and I was
Mhm.
thinking about lifetimes and journeys, I started thinking to myself, maybe not in this lifetime. Maybe I wasn't meant to be an animator. And so I kind of just pushed it to the side.
And you'll come back
Um,
as a cartoon.
I came back, right. And I came back in my next life as a cartoon. Now that would be interesting. I should consider that for a future episode. But no, so that was my original dream. So when I'm looking at what the guy is doing, I kind of see more. Like I'm like, this could be pushed further. I'm just like, I don't know if this guy, he's charging people for simple, basic things.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I do
For
this
templates.
myself?
Mhm.
For templates, I wasn't sure. And I was like, can I do this myself? So then I attempted to work the program. I realized that I had a program in my computer the whole time
Mm.
where I could animate, and I was watching videos. I was sort of teaching myself like, how do I bring a character to life? I didn't have enough knowledge at that time, and so I then just kept looking for people that could do what I didn't know how to do yet, which was like, how does someone take a design and rig them up so that you could bend their arms and move them and manipulate them and bring them to life?
Mhm.
Um, so I kept looking around and I found this one guy and I asked them, I said, listen, if I send you an original sketch, can you then turn that into a movable puppet, like a digital puppet that I can then manipulate later? And he said to me, I will design it exactly the way you draw it.
Mm.
And I said, bet, I will try this because this was different.
Yep.
I send him the sketch. Literally 2 days later, he had it ready, sends it back. And I sent him
This is all in a pandemic.
this is all at the very top of pandemic. This
Nice.
is, the world shut down, what, March 14th?
Yeah, I
And
believe you. I don't remember.
the world closed down February 9th. No. So March 14th, the world shut down. And already during that time, like between March and May, I was doing all this investigative work and I was looking
Mm.
around and found this guy in Panama that could rig these characters up. So he took my original sketch of Tita, and I remember I drew the sketch and I signed my name and the date. I was like, this is when I did this. And I sent
Mm.
it off to him. And 2 days later, he sent it to me. And so, right in my Adobe suite, I had programs in which I could bring her to life.
Mm.
I didn't know how just yet, but I don't even know how I figured it out, to be honest with you. Somehow recorded the voice. I was able to move the thing. But it's
Nice.
funny because in the beginning, I was doing it kind of like I was recording several takes of the thing and then editing it later. So if you watch the
Mm.
earlier episodes, some of Tita and some of the characters, it's choppy, it's not as smooth
Mm.
because I was literally just laying it all out
Yeah.
improv style. I wasn't even writing scripts. I was just
Yeah.
improving everything and then chopping it up
Mm.
into whatever the scenes became. Um anyway, so that's how it started. That's how it started. May 9th, 2020, I released the first episode called The Interview. And
That's when you broke the internet.
well, no, I didn't break
Mhm.
the internet yet.
Oh, okay.
This particular sketch, I think, was like 60 seconds or less
Mhm.
long. It was less than a minute, and she's talking about the jobs that she's had
Yeah.
and her being a
Mhm.
school aide or whatever. And so I put it out there. I had no idea. I think the first person I showed it to was our spiritual sister
Yeah.
Warrior. I sent it to her and I said, "What do you think?" I was like,
Mhm.
because she's a tough crowd and
Yeah.
sometimes she just doesn't understand what she's watching. So I
Mhm.
was like, if it reaches her, we'll
Yeah.
be all right, you know.
Yeah.
But she thought it was like the funniest thing, and I was like, all right, well, let me. And so I just put it out there,
Mhm.
and people resonated with the character in a really cool way. Like, and so I said, okay, I'll do another one. So I created an episode where she was complaining about trying to apply for unemployment
Mm.
and how the government was making it really hard for her.
Mm.
And these are all things that were actually happening.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
people resonated with these topics. They're like,
Yep.
shit, that's me, you know?
Yep.
And so then I was helping my wife one day. I was filming her reading because my wife is a teacher, and I was filming her doing like story time for her students because it was
Mm.
all virtual. Teachers were trying to figure out creative ways to keep the kids entertained
Yeah.
and educated. So I would film her doing these story times, and then I would like go into the book and I would like cross dissolve the images that she's reading, very reading rainbow style,
Yeah.
Sesame Street. And then I thought to myself, I said, yo, what would it be like if Tita read to the kids?
That was golden. That was it.
And yeah, yeah. And so then I opted to pick the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And I just did it, right? I didn't even know that she would comment in between the story. I just
Mm.
said, okay, she's gonna read it her way, and that shit's gonna sound hilarious.
Yeah.
And then she just started commenting in between naturally. This
Mm.
is all improvisational. And then when I finished that episode, that was episode 3, and I cut it, that episode was 6 minutes and change long.
Mm.
It was way longer than the first 2 episodes that were under a minute.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, this is where I am going to ruin the thing that is so special. I'm about to destroy this
Why? Why?
because it was long.
Yeah.
Because, there's this stereotype that people don't have an attention span. Like they're not going to sit and watch a long video. You hear this nonsense all the
Which is
time.
true. But if it's good, they will.
But if it's good, they're gonna watch it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like if they're enjoying an interview that's on your show, they're gonna sit for however long that interview is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So sometimes I think we lose faith in people that we think that they don't want good content. They do. It's just that if you give them shit, then they only want it for 60 seconds.
No, absolutely. I agree. People look, that it is a fact that people attention span is different from when we was in college, when you was in college, how we consume. So it's always good to find that sweet spot,
Yeah.
right? Of not too long, right in the middle. But
Mhm.
if you feel that you go a little too long, it's like you said, if the content is good, then or if it's entertaining, it's kind of like when you do stand up, filling up the jokes while you're telling them and stuff like that, talking the story. People will watch. People will definitely watch, and I think you would. You can feel it too if you feel like it's dragging.
Mhm.
And it didn't feel like that with Tita because people. I think this doesn't go with everything, right? Because there's things that like, okay, that person shouldn't do 30 minutes. Maybe his sweet spot is 15 or 5. But I think with Tita, what makes her special is like people can relate, right? But at the same time, you're waiting till she ad libs or do something
Mhm.
and go off and say something for. So it's like you see it's like a heartbeat in a sense, like it go like that. So that's how she's telling the story. So you're waiting, you don't mind waiting for that to have
For
that
the
kick
hit.
for the hit. And I think that's where you found that thing that like, yo, we'll get into it. I could do 7 minutes, 8 minutes, or even a special, a Christmas special, because now I have these characters, I have her, and I don't mind. It's not it's good content. So
Yeah, no, and like I said, as nervous as I was, and I remember hitting upload, and that thing went up there, and I was like, here we go.
yep.
This is this is the end. And so suddenly, people just start going crazy. And then
Right.
like the very next day, and you know this to be true, right?
Yeah.
Ain't nobody getting so many hits on Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook had like almost a 500,000 views in like a
Mm.
day. I
Mm.
was like, no one, I have never seen anybody do this on
Yeah.
Facebook, at least not from my circles, you
Yeah.
know?
And this
I,
is someone too that, like, like I said, doing this naturally, not boosting numbers, doesn't have a team behind them, doing marketing, ads, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You are from
mhm,
the bottom, doing everything your way. You know what I'm saying? So to get that was organic, was organic views and organic shares from your
mhm.
circle, sharing with other circles, and in that circle sharing, and on it. It was this fire that caught trace.
Yeah. So it just, after that, I remember like even the singer Domingo Quiñones, like people
Mm-hmm.
like celebrities were commenting like, man,
Mm.
she had to be a Nuyorican, so
Mm-hmm.
everybody just resonated with her. And I realized at that point, I said, nah, I can do anything I want with her.
Mm.
I don't have to be a slave to this like less than a minute nonsense. And I can do it. Basically, I sort of gave myself permission at that point. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're totally fine. Like
Right.
that's all malarkey, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
So that was the beginnings, man, of just adventures with Tita, and
So now
it
you
just took
have
off.
this viral video. Did you feel pressures now to create more and like to make it good? Like here, like now it was a place out of love, and now it's almost love in business now, because now you have uh this demand, right? And you're not trying to put pressure on yourself, but there is some type of pressure of like, okay, the the clock is ticking. Is what's the next thing? What am I going to create? And is it good? Because now you had this thing, man, is this long? And then you gave yourself that shot, did it, and then boom. So did you have any roadblocks with that? Like, what's next? What am I going to do? The clock's ticking. And then it's like,
It's funny you asked that because I think my wife said to me, she said, she's like, are you feeling pressure now? Like you have to beat yourself, beat this like I forget. She didn't say it as like intense, but she was just like, I'm sure you probably feel like you have
she
to
woke
like
you up in the
now
middle of the
top
night.
this. How do you
Are you
top this?
ready for what's coming?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and to be very honest with you, I didn't feel pressure. I felt excited and happy
Mm-hmm.
that I have found something that worked. And I think more importantly, I have found something that worked, that it wasn't like I sat and try to come up with a strategy as to like how I'm going to get the audience and how I'm going to lock them in and
Mm.
keep them watching for
Yeah.
this amount of time. And what are my demographics? Like I didn't think of any of those things that I had spent a lot of time thinking about, thinking that was, no formula,
Yeah.
just complete freedom, raw,
Mm.
just pure love. I love the character so much. I love what she was saying and doing, that's what motivated the episodes. And so I think in the beginning, it was just like listening to the audience. I was listening to what people were going through. So like after that episode, the next thing I had read was an article on how women were finally standing up because they were getting paid in all these different professions way lower than men were getting paid. And so people were finally speaking out about it and
Mm.
fighting about it. I mean, this is stuff people, women have been fighting about for a long
Yeah.
time, but it just seemed like it was a little bit more highlighted in this article that I was reading. And I said, oh, okay. I said, what would Tita say if she was
Mm.
in this position? And so then I came up with the next episode, and that one resonated
Gotcha.
really well. So I think those first few episodes were just listening to what was going on in the world, up until I decided to just do whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to necessarily rely on what was being spoken about per se.
Gotcha. How did you find Tita's voice? Like, what is that? What are the colors in Tita's voice of people that you was inspired by? That's one. And then two, how did you allow her to grow and put a mixture of you, but also listening to her spirit to find that balance of you and her, and then now together to create. So two questions in those two part. How did
Yeah.
what is Tita's voice? What are the different colors in there, and how did you nurture that voice to grow to where it's at now?
Yeah, so I think, the birth of Tita was definitely like, my own family members
Mm,
that kind of spoke like this, or women in the neighborhood that spoke like this. And I always found it extremely entertaining,
mm.
you know, not in the sense of like I was laughing at them, but I just love it was more like I love the texture of the
Right.
voice and also what was behind the voice. Like there was so much passion and fight,
Mm.
and it could be like fight for community, fight for your family, or fight because you're trying to catch a sale. So
Mm. Yeah.
it's the same amount of
Yeah.
passion, and so something about the sound just is so fun.
Mhm.
And so I just, I should just imitate that voice, that quality for a long time until like I was just like until like, obviously I decided, okay, because for a long time I was trying to figure out if I was gonna do this as live action. Like, was I gonna
Right.
dress up as this character that talked like that? And I
Right.
was considering it. But as I was like moving into my 40s, I guess I was thinking, I don't know if I want to dress up like a woman. Not that there's
Mhm.
anything wrong with that, but I just wasn't sure if like, comedy has changed. So it's
Right.
like, is that where I wanted to go? And was I passionate to do that?
Yeah.
And so I feel like in cartoon form, you could do whatever you want. You can have a
Mhm.
lot of fun. And since Tita is part of my community, I could voice her. Like I know exactly who she is. She's
Mhm.
part of my family. Um, but in terms of the other question you asked,
Nurturing her voice and
nurturing her voice and like
Mhm.
her spirit and all that,
Yeah.
I think Tita represents a voice in me that I probably wouldn't say normally on a regular basis.
Mm.
Like I wouldn't have the confidence to say some of the things that she says, but she has no filter.
Mm.
So she, in a sense, kind of serves as like that side of me, maybe even like voicing, that passion,
Mm.
and so I feel very free to do that in her voice, and I'm actually okay with that, which is why sometimes when people ask me, we want to interview you. And I'm like, don't interview me, interview Tita, because
Right.
she is just much
Mhm.
more fun than me.
Mm.
And
That's
I'm
a
okay. I'm cool with
Yeah.
that.
I was gonna ask you that because I remember, right? There was a sketch that I did in college that kind of caught fire in Buffalo, and I created this homo thug guy named Peaches, and I was rapping a song at that time when it wasn't cancel culture. Instead of
Yeah.
it was straight out of Compton, I put straight out of the closet, and it was a funny sketch. It was a rap song, and with my friends, and it caught fire in Buffalo. And the character was Peaches, and everyone in college will yell, "Yo, Peaches!" and they wanted to see Peaches, right? So then, for
Yeah.
me, like it was cool, right? But then after a while, I didn't want to be just known as Peaches, like
Hmm.
because I feel like not that I was more than Peaches. It's like it's like I had to explain. It's like it's not me. It's a character. As if like I'm trying always try to justify it, and I think I got not tired, but I got to a place where it's like, damn, like, is this what I'm going to be remembered as all the time? It's just Peaches, which is a funny sketch. And I think for me, I was questioning myself that I am funny, but I'm more than that. And I think that was a pivotal point for me where I started changing of what I wanted to put out there and what I would like people to always gravitate to, right? So I say that to say, you know, did you feel any type of way that people know it's you and they love you? So when they see Tita, it's like, Victor, man, he's great. But it's just now Tita, 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 Tita. Like, was it a point? It was like, guys, like, okay, you
What
know,
about me?
right, exactly. And like, I have done other stuff. Like, where was the love then? I mean, I did get the love, but it'd be great to have the same thing. So it's like, or if you hang out and like, yo, who's up, Victor? Yo, where's Tita? Tita. And you're like, did it become a thing for you where you got not annoyed, but like, all right, this is great, but has it reached a point where you're like, what about me too? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I what I'm trying to say?
I know. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
Not saying that you hate her, you love her, but it comes a time that's like, All right, yeah, Tita's not here. You're
It's
seeing
my
Victor.
time now,
Yeah,
Tita. You
yeah,
know.
you're seeing Victor right now.
No, I know what you mean. No, to be honest with you, no, not at all. You know, because it's interesting, man. How do I put this? I actually, you know what's interesting?
What's interesting?
People, people don't even, people don't even know it's me.
Mm.
People know that I'm associated with the cartoon, but they have no idea that I even voiced the character. They don't know
Mm.
most times that I voice most of the characters or all the characters. They have
That's
no
interesting.
idea. So there is a certain, interesting mystique about it. The people are
Mm.
just like, had no idea. Wait, you voiced that? And then they just look at me for a
Ah.
minute. And so I enjoy that a little bit because
So
they don't really
yeah.
understand it.
It's funny because now you just broke it down. You're in two worlds. You have this world where it caught fire, no one knows you personally, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this other world where people close to you on Facebook knows that it's you. So you have those people asking you, Tita, Tita, Tita. But there's this whole other world, like, oh, she's funny. And then if someone says, yeah, he's the guy that does the voice, they're like, what? And then you do
Yeah.
it, and they make okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And
Totally
then they
makes
hear
sense.
me talk and they're just like, wow, it's so weird. I can't even see that
Right.
you're the person.
And then they
And I
don't care
like
about
that.
you. It's like, okay, well, where's Tita?
Sometimes they do that. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'll see if she's around. I feel like Batman,
Mm,
like I'm totally, right now I'm Bruce Wayne.
mm.
Ventita's Batman, and I'm
Right.
totally fine with that.
And I feel like in this, like once this episode comes out, everyone's gonna think that like, where's Tita, right? That I want to hear Tita. I did the interview about Tita. And I remember telling Cloud, I was like there'll be a time where I talk to Tita and I want to talk to her, like,
Hmm.
ever in this episode, another episode. But I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to talk to the creator, the person that found this voice and worked with her. Because to me, I feel like that's where for me, that's where I'm very interested at. Just getting the mindset of you creating her, and also her mindset of how she thinks. Because because I know some of the things of how you work, and this is a different element where I don't know a lot, or this is a world that I wasn't there next to you creating it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's the people maybe like, yo, I'm already 35 minutes in. Where's Tita? Like, I'm like, she had her time. I want to talk to Victor Cruz, Filter Tree, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. I know it's funny because I actually, I was talking to Cloud about this. I told us that, I don't do interviews as myself talking about Tita. So like you have the exclusive right now.
Yeah.
Like I never really talk. I mean, with the exception of one or two moments, but most times I tell people just talk to her. Don't talk to
Right.
me.
I remember Cloud was like, oh, Cloud was like, Victor said, we can interview Tita, that she'll be ready these dates. I'm like, but I don't want to talk to Tita. Like, I want to talk to Victor. Eventually, I want to talk to her, like, get
Yeah,
some
yeah,
snippets of her.
yeah,
But I'm like, because I felt like I saw so much of her that I could, like, her story, she told herself, her story's already
yeah,
herself.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
get this. I haven't seen this side yet of like, how do you put this together? And so putting it together, how were you able now to go from doing improv with her to like,
Hmm.
now I need a system. I know the formula, right? But now I need a system now, because I know
Yeah.
how you work. Eventually, you'll get to a place where like it has to be on paper. I have to flush
Hmm.
these ideas. So what started happening now to like create this system, to create this organically, to make it still work? Because do you also, once you start writing the script, do you improv certain things too? Because so take me down to your madness of like, okay, I had fun doing the improv, but now I got to put a system behind it. I got to put these things to make it a well-oiled machine now, because the formula is there,
Yeah.
but now I got to put the chess pieces all together.
What's interesting is when I wrote the first like scripted thing that I wrote for Tita is I think it's episode 5 where she does poetry. I wrote a
Mm,
piece of poetry that she spits. I did
yes.
that for like a special event that we're doing at Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and she appeared in that program that was happening virtually. And then episode 6, which is called Pelo Fights between her and a Wilda, that was the first script that I wrote, and I hand wrote that script. Normally,
Mm.
I'd be typing it, but I just hand wrote that script, and I was improvising. Like the only way I could write it was for
Yeah.
me to just kind of flow with it, and then like find it and keep
Yep.
scratching things out and keep like I was rapping, like rhyming,
Yeah.
kind of freestyling. And so that's how I was able to do it. But even that wasn't clean just yet because I was still recording the characters in a way that was like I was doing like, I don't know, 12 takes
Mm.
for Tita, 12, 15 takes for a Wilda. And then I had to figure out how was I going to put them together so that they could talk
Mm.
to each other. I had never done that before. It was the first time I was dealing with two characters. And I was like, shit. And I just sat there thinking like, how am I going to find the timing so that it works? And two, they have to sound like they're talking to each other. And so I worked really hard to try to make that work. So it's very choppy. If you go back and watch it, it's very choppy. It's just, it's like they're
To the
talking to each
untrained
other,
eye.
to the untrained eye, right? It's very choppy.
Yeah.
But that's just the way I knew how to do it.
Right.
And then after that episode, I started sort of writing the scripts, but still kind of improv. I don't think it was until episode 12 that I
Mm.
started officially writing a script, like
Yeah.
typing it. But still, even so, I had to talk as the character in order
Right.
to capture her nuances. There was no other way I could do it. Otherwise, it wouldn't
Mhm.
be funny.
Right.
And then I think I was still doing like a bunch of takes, still
Mm.
kind of that same style. Till one day I figured out that I could record. It's so dumb, right? Because you're figuring
Yeah.
it out as you go. But I was just like, I can record each character audio, just the audio, edit the audio, then position it so that it matches exactly the
Mm.
script. So all the timing is there. I'm
Mhm.
not dealing with several takes. Then I would take individual audio clips and I would drop it into the animation program where I would
Mm.
sync the sound with the character and I would move her and manipulate each of the characters there, knowing already kind of like what they were going to do. And
Nice.
then when I went to edit in my editing software, I would then drop the characters in. And because the timelines were timed, they would talk when they needed to speak. Now it was just a matter of kind of cutting the timing of the moments so that one joke, the setup, boom, like it would
Mhm.
hit, ba, 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 ba,
Mm.
And the truth is, like, I think it was around episode 4 that Guru Guru stepped in and Guru's like, she was like, hey, she had watched how the first 3 or 4 went, and then she was just like, all right, this is really great. You got something special here. She said, but so she was sort of, without saying too much, she was kind of guiding me to shape it and to make sure that the funnies always came. That in shaping it, that and I think she, because I didn't understand it fully at the time, but she was kind of like helping me kind of get things in order
Mm.
because I didn't quite have it yet. It was really so raw.
Yeah,
Still
yeah.
very funny, but it was just so raw.
Right.
And, and
You
so,
were still
anyways,
finding your way with it because it was still growing. It was a living document.
it was brand spanking new. And I was so excited about it that like every week I was dropping an episode. I was
Right.
literally, I teach a class, like an acting class on Wednesday nights. And as soon as my class would end at 9:30, I would then switch the mode on my computer and I would record whatever Tita was going to say.
Mm.
I would then edit that. I would throw in a background. And like 2 hours later, I was uploading an episode. Like that's how
Mm.
fast I was moving with them. But that's because they were less complicated. There wasn't a lot happening. But the moment that episode 12 came along, suddenly I had other things happening. I had cars moving. I had people walking by, a kid on a
Mm.
skateboard. I had somebody yelling because now you're thinking, okay, what lives in the neighborhood? You got to throw those sounds in. So there's a guy like, yo, throw
Mm.
down my keys.
Yeah.
You can hear all that stuff. And so after that, anyways,
Mm.
I think the machine got tighter
Yeah.
and tighter. And then at some point I just discovered, okay, this is how I like to work. I do the script first. I then will call Guru
Yeah.
literally, and I will go through the script almost like I'm pitching it to the network
Yeah. Yeah.
and saying, yo, and then, her laughter or when she doesn't laugh or her questions would then inspire a new joke.
Mhm.
Then I'll go and record the joint, matching exactly what we talked about. And because the idea was good, I said, okay, I can animate this. But to animate it first and then to have to go back and change stuff, that was a challenge. Like if
Mm,
something wasn't that funny, it's like shit. And even
yeah.
with that, I still do that.
Yeah.
Because I now I send Guru all the episodes. I'm like, all right,
Mm,
check it out. She gives me the blessing on the episode, and then I'll upload it. But sometimes she'll say that part's not that funny,
mm.
and I'm like, damn,
Yeah, I
it's
don't wanna
two
go
and
back and yeah,
it's 2 in the morning. It's 2 in the
yeah.
morning when she's giving me this note.
Oh.
So now I'm like, I wanted to release it tonight, or it's due in the morning. But then I'll edit that shit right there, and then her and I on the phone at 3:30 in the morning,
Mm,
and she's like, there it is. Now it's funny, and I'll
mm.
be like, all right. Upload it now.
Then people are like, "I didn't like that one part."
Yeah, but not everybody's gonna
Yeah.
get it.
And she's like, "But I thought it was funny. I like it. That was my
Yeah,
edit."
yeah. True, you don't need that many people to like it. No, no, no. I need to keep this going.
No. So now, you know, you said something along the lines of Tita's this former person that there's no filter, says what she wants, and in some ways you live through her for that because that's not you typically all the time. You come
Hmm.
off more of reserved, and you'll say what you have to say eventually in a different way than Tita
Hmm.
actually says it. What are some lessons that you learned from her working with her and watching her continue to grow? What are some things that she taught you about your own life and about yourself?
That's a really good question. Nobody has
Thank
ever
you.
asked me that. No one's ever asked me that. And
Because no one cares about you, and that sucks. Everyone wants Tita, Tita, Tita. But what about Victor
that's
Cruz?
great. What about Tita? Great. Okay, great.
So
Okay, your
Victor, you
confidence
said
awesome.
you was about to jump off the roof, kill yourself, and in that moment you heard Tita's voice. What happened? What was the voice
What
that?
did she say? And I'm
Yeah,
sure it was very funny.
yeah, exactly. What did she say right before you was about to jump off that bridge?
No, I tell you what Tita has done for me, which is interesting, is my confidence level about what I ask for
Mm,
and what I pursue and how I pursue it. Right. For instance, like, I don't think about, I really don't think about, is it okay to release this episode? Like the only time, when I have discussions with Guru, that's something different, right? Because
right.
I'm trying to figure out, does the story work? But to put it out there with confidence, or to tell a person, okay, that's great, but let's do this, let's try this. Like there's a element of confidence that has changed about how I ask for stuff,
Mm,
and how what I'm willing to try with Tita, and even in my own life too, like
right.
with auditions, or like asking less permission. I think a lot of that has come from the work I've done with the show,
Right.
and how free she is. That actually might be bleeding into just what I'm doing. Um, so there's a big level of freedom there. I mean, there's stuff that I'm still probably reserved about, maybe some
Yeah.
things I won't be so vocal about, but I think my actions are more confident than what comes out here, which I think is more important anyways. Because you
Mhm.
can sit and say, I'm gonna do A, B, and C, but just taking the actions, people go,
Mhm.
shit, man, that person is like, they're doing it. They're
Right.
they're really doing some cool things. And it's not that you're doing it for that. But then when you hear people say that, you realize, yo, I'm actually taking steps forward that I wasn't doing before. It's
Right.
different.
I think also like Tita for you is a symbolism to a lot of strong women that was in your life. That showed you a different way of how to be. I think what admire like you said, like it wasn't that you was like hearing this voice or hearing people talk like this in your neighborhood. It wasn't that like you was making fun of them, but it was more of an admiration. I think that's what started to take place, where like you said, like the admiration of the strength behind it, and I think just being genuine to who and what they are, and asking and demanding for certain things and keeping it real. Where
Mhm.
I think for not only you, but a lot of us, we walk in this world uncertain and unsure of our voice or how to use it or to stand
Mhm.
tall in it. We're afraid to be judged. And here comes along Tita, but prior to Tita, all these women that was a symbolism of what, don't take no shit for no one. Just be yourself. And you've been around a lot of different types of women that were strong and courageous.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you always uh like looked for and it wanted to achieve, but within you, with your own voice.
Mhm.
And then Tita, to me is like this symbolism of, don't be afraid to be who and what you are, and to say those things. No matter if you grew up in the projects or if you're poor, it doesn't matter. You still have a voice, so use it. And the you will, if people agree with you or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you said it, and you went after it. And I think that bleeds into you, and also it. I think that's why people gravitate to it too, because it bleeds into a lot of people. Because like a lot of them, and I read the comments like, oh, my aunt's like this, or I have a cousin like this, or I know that type of person. It's like everyone knows. And no matter if they're laughing they're not laughing at them, they're laughing with them. At the
Mhm.
end, they're like, but she's right though. She has a point, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and and you're right. Like Tita celebrates those women in our community in
Hmm.
a very authentic and positive way.
Right.
Because if you think about it, like those women in our community were never celebrated, and if they were, I don't know if they it did appear in a project or like in a
Right.
movie or a TV show, probably they were placed there to be laughed at,
Yeah.
to be more the punchline versus the hero. And
Hmm.
for me, women like Tita are heroes. Like I look at my mom, right? My mom is my hero. She's my hero because, if let's say if my father wasn't there all the time, if my
Right.
father just decided I'm gonna step out for a second and then I'm gonna come back and then I'm gonna step back in,
Yeah.
my mom never bounced and my mom took on the crappiest jobs, dealt with the crappiest situations just so that we could have a life, so
Hmm.
that we could have a life. And so I think that on TV, whether it's live action or animation, that is not celebrated as much as it should be. And I don't think it's normalized. Like when you see it, you're not used to seeing it.
Hmm.
You know, you've never seen a cartoon like Tita before, but we know what cartoons we grew up on. So
Yeah.
to see Tita, a character from our community, as a cartoon is very special because it is celebrating and kind of normalizing what's ours.
You know what it reminds me of too? And you just touched on that. Like you said, a cartoon that we can relate to and that we saw. You ever saw Eddie Murphy's PJs, the projects?
The PJs. Yeah.
Yep. That was
I,
something that I gravitated to.
yeah.
It was something that we relate to. Tita to me is a form of, it's different, but it's a similar concept of like, well, I'm not the only person that grew up around people like this that
Hmm.
are funny, honest, and the environment that they learn from. And
Hmm.
Tita is definitely is a form of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there have been, you're right, because like the PJs had that, the Boondocks also
Mm,
offered that. Um,
right.
I'm trying to think of some other cartoons, you
But I
know,
haven't seen it. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen it like New York Rican style, or Latino style. Let's
yeah,
Latino style. Like I haven't seen
or
that.
Latino from New York, right?
Right,
Latino
exactly.
specifically from New York. That,
Mhm,
because when you think Latino, I mean, I'm even trying to think of like even West Coast
mhm.
Mexicanos or Chicanos in this country. Has there been a cartoon like that? And there are some people doing certain projects. Like I know
Right.
that there's a young lady that does like a Black Mexican
Mhm.
animated character. Um, and I'm sure there's stuff out there that like we just don't know it because
Right.
the bigger companies don't, you know,
Right.
either not putting it up out there or picking it up, or they just don't know of it yet.
Yeah. But
But
what I love is that this is genuine, and that it's it's homegrown and it's
Mhm.
independent. It's something that you're in control of. Eventually if you're blessed, there'll be deals. But if not, you don't even need the deals from the people in these suits. It's like whether you come to me or not, I'm creating it, and I made my own path with this. So it really doesn't
Yeah.
matter at this point. Of course, would you want it to become bigger and even more successful? Of course, who doesn't? But at
Mhm.
this point, you're just like you said. I'm not thinking about when I have to create it, when I have to upload it. I'm just going with the flow, and when something comes to me, I got all the tools in line to go right back into the studio and start creating this thing. And one thing I want to touch on is this big uh, goal of yours and this big project that you took on was creating a Christmas special, which you adding
Mhm.
so many different elements, more characters, and even more people to voice characters. How uh one, where did you get the idea from? I think, to me, honestly, and I'm just not shooting your horn, it is a classic Christmas film to me,
Mm.
especially for you know Tita. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is it was good. It didn't, and it was one of your longest ones, right? And it didn't feel
17 minutes.
and it didn't. It felt like a Christmas special. Felt like
Mhm.
it felt like how everybody watched Charlie Brown Christmas. I feel like it's up there where, like, okay, if you want to watch something that's Latino and or not even Latino, but you love her, she has a Christmas special. You could play it every Christmas. You know,
Yeah.
how did you come up with the idea, and what was some challenges that you faced now, taking on this big undertaking now, like adding, I want to work with this person, that person, this person. Now it's not no
Mhm.
longer you, there's other people in the mix and different schedules, and I can only imagine the headaches with that. So
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always think of the success of The Simpsons. I always remember, like, the first time that I was introduced to them wasn't on the Tracy Ullman show. It was that Christmas episode that they did, and that kind of kicked off their show. I think it came out in like '88, Christmas of '88, and then by
mm,
'89, January, February, Simpsons started mid-season because people really enjoyed the cartoon. And I always thought to myself, because I don't wait for anybody. I never wait. At this point in my life, I don't wait for anybody. I just do things. I think I do things a little smarter today, but I
mm.
just will do them. And so,
And sometimes too, like, what annoyed me about you sometimes is that you'll hold on to these beautiful ideas. Well, I
hmm
sometimes feel like it was too long, and then I'm like,
uh-huh.
but I use Tita, for example. Of course, you not only heard it from me, but I'm like, yo, pull the trigger, you got it, let's do it. But this one, I think, was different in the sense that it needed its time that it took to be where it's at, right?
It needed
Because
to, like,
all
ferment a little bit, like
right.
cook,
And not for nothing, you're a fucking busy guy. So the pandemic was the time that you needed to put all the pieces for her to grow. And it
Yeah.
would have did her disservice if it came at a different time, because you would have definitely felt maybe rushed for putting these things out. But the pandemic was the perfect silence that you needed to be like, let's do it.
Yeah, and also too, like, people were doing anything. Everybody was doing a live, whether
Yeah,
it was Facebook, IG, like everybody was doing a live where they were just talking about how they felt, or like today, whatever it was. And there's no criticism on them, but it really just gave me an opportunity to do something that was super creative, super fun. And then because no one was going anywhere, they were watching the show. It was perfect timing
yeah,
to release it, because now that things are sort of clearing up and people are out, I mean, we're not in the clear, but people
yeah,
are doing things. They're getting their lives back and things. I was able to build a fan base, a loyal fan base that, like right now, I've taken a small break because the Christmas episode took a lot out of me.
yeah.
Plus, a lot of people don't know this, but like right after the Christmas episode, right after I was done with that, I jumped on and I did a thing from Museo del Barrio where I created Tita bits, and I also animated myself
Mm.
talking to kids. And so I was still animating up until January 6th. And I think I was a little burnt out,
Of
and I
course.
needed to take a break. But I was getting ready to do a play, which I'm in rehearsals now for. And so it was actually fine because I was like, let me do something that, that I've wanted to do for a while, which is go back and do a play and kind of go back to my foundation. And even so, like I created this thing called Tita Talks where she does these interviews with people. And
Mhm,
so I have like two in the can, that two more in the can. Like the first one was Elaine del Valle.
mhm.
And I also interviewed a couple other folks that it's coming up soon. But it was something that I could produce that wouldn't take too long to
Right.
produce, which I say that, but then I sit with the material and I'm being really picky about how the thing is going to be executed. And I'm just like, this thing has got to be funny. The time has
Yeah.
got to be right. So now I'm cutting, I'm moving. But anyways, going back to what you were talking
Yeah,
about,
this Christmas special,
the
how
Christmas special.
the idea, how
uh,
to just you coming up with the idea and you executing it, or what was take us down as that mindset and then the challenge that you face. Look, this shit is 17 minutes now. This, and you got to write a script and you're dealing with a lot of people. Take us
yeah,
down
so
the background of it.
I wrote the script. The script was 33 pages long. That was the script. It's 33 pages long. I had this vision that I was going to also incorporate people from Pix 11 because they have been supporting me. They have had Tita on the show. So I kind of written some characters with them in mind. And I really wanted them to be a part of it. But because they're like news anchormen, they're like strict rules about other
Hmm.
things that they do. And so they, weren't really able to participate. But my idea was, I think, like to premiere a piece of it on Pix 11, like just to make it special because they were on it. Anyways, that was my earlier thoughts on it. But really what I guess there's another piece to this that I probably haven't shared.
I'm getting all the
Um,
good stuff.
you are getting all the
Mm.
good stuff.
See what happened, guys, when you just put these on hold and ask the creator some questions. You get the good juicy stuff.
I think so. Okay, I'll just keep it in the most simplest form.
No,
This
don't keep it
was
simple.
all
Share that moment.
right. All right. So while I was producing these episodes, somebody reached out to me. There's a friend who's a writer,
Mm,
and they said, "Yo, do you
feel good.
have like a literary agent, somebody that's repping you on this show for the show? Because Tita's hilarious." And then we're
Mhm.
like, my manager would love this.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I know my reps, I know that they have a department like that. So I didn't want to step on any toes. And I said, let me talk to them first.
And it was like, we had dibs on Tita first. You go away. She's under contract with us.
No, but I had presented it to them and I said, hey guys, look, as y'all know, this is an animated series that I've been doing since top of pandemic. And I would love to like take this as far as I can go. I want to reach for the stars.
Yeah.
And I was honest with them. I said most times when I create stuff, it's usually so independent that I don't really give myself a chance to reach more people.
Mm.
I mean, not that I'm not grateful for those that do follow, but I'm like, why can't I? Why not me
Mhm.
to reach to try to be on a network or a platform or something like that?
And it was like,
So I
and for
sent them
that,
the
I'm
huh?
out. And it said, and for that reason,
For
I'm
that
out.
reason, I'm out. Little Shark Tank.
Yeah.
I love that. That was our joke, man. That's good. For that reason, I'm out. So I sent them a link. I said, guys, check
Yeah.
out this link. I said, maybe you guys can help me take this to the next level. And I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything back.
Of
They never even
course.
responded to the email. And so I was like, all right. And I felt a certain kind of way about it, but
Of course.
it didn't bother me quite yet like that. So I waited a couple weeks and I sent another email with the same link. And I said, hey guys, I sent an email a few weeks ago, whatever it was. And, I'd like to see if you guys would be down to. And so one of them said, yeah, I'll check it out on Sunday or something like that. And then I never heard back about it.
Yep.
And I was just like, you know what? There's somebody that might be interested in repping me, and I'm here kind of wasting my time with folks that don't want to.
Right.
And I won't be offended if you don't want to,
Hmm.
because just
But just give me an
let
answer.
give me the freedom to go with somebody else who does. Like if y'all
Yeah.
not gonna do it, I'll do it with somebody else. And so I reached out to my manager because I have a manager and an agency. I told my manager, I said, look, this is what I want to do. She told me straight up, I can't take this project on, but at least she told me straight up, I can't do it
Absolutely.
because I have another project in the mix and I got to put my focuses on that. But at least she responded. She was honest. She didn't bullshit me. And I
Mhm.
really respected her for that. But I told her, I said, look, there's somebody else that is interested in taking me on potentially. Can I do that? Yeah, I just don't want to step on any toes. So she did me the solid of reaching out to them and saying, guys, what's up? Do you want to take this on or not? Otherwise, somebody else is interested. And they had a meeting about it. They sat and talked about it. I felt special that they had a meeting
Yeah.
about it. Maybe I was just at the end of the meeting for something else. I'll take whatever, but I'll just say it was a meeting just for me. Um, and so they decided that they were not interested in repping
Okay.
me for that. They just wanted to rep me as an actor,
Great.
and
Thank you for
and
the
that
answer.
I could go find somebody that wanted to take me on. And so I felt very happy about that. I told my buddy, I said, "Yo, tell your rep that I'm that if no, I said, do you think your rep would you still be willing to
Yeah.
share this with your rep?" And he said, stand by,
Mhm.
dot dot dot, ellipses. And so literally that night,
You get a knock
uh
at the door.
I get a knock at the door. Are you Mr. Cruz? Come with me. There's a limo. They put a black bag over my head. No. So I don't know why I'm in the limo. Anyways,
Yeah.
so it's Jonah Hill. He puts a bag over my head. So, anyways, apparently he shared it with his manager. She was on the treadmill working out and she almost fell off the
Mm.
treadmill and died.
And
She
that's where the
lo-
deal went. The deal and her died
I
at the
almost got
treadmill.
repped, but the rep died. So that's how the story. So now going to the Christmas episode now. So but anyways, she fell in love with it. And what's so beautiful about this person is that they're also Puerto Rican from
Mm.
they're from Brooklyn and they're Puerto Rican. And so I didn't have to explain what this show was to them.
Yeah.
And
The video spoke for itself
the video spoke for itself. And so she wanted to set up a meeting. She
with
wanted to set up a
Tita.
meeting. No, no, no. She wanted to set up a meeting with me. But when she
And
turned on that,
Tita.
no, no, just me,
Okay.
just me. But when she turned on the Zoom, Tita was waiting for her.
Mm.
And so she had no idea that was coming. She had no idea.
That's awesome.
And so she had a whole like 15-minute conversation with Tita before
Mm.
she actually talked to me. And that was kind of like a really cool like
That's how you
way
nailed
to
the pitch.
nail the pitch. Like this is gonna work. This guy is like
Mhm.
hilarious live right here to me.
Mhm.
And she said she loved me, and she's like, "Look, I'm gonna get the president of the company I work for to meet you as well. He wants to meet you." And what's beautiful about it is the president of the company is African American.
And
So now
Puerto
I got
Rican.
someone who's black and Puerto Rican who are interested in this project. And so when she tells me, she goes, "Do the same thing you did to me, but to him with Tita." So
And make
Tita
Tita
comes on
black.
and make Tita black and give her an afro. Well, Tita is Afro Latina,
Yeah,
so
that is true.
she covers all the bases.
Yeah.
No, but so he turns on the meeting and she's
Mm.
there, and he's trying to talk to me like I'm just a person, like a regular guy, like,
Yeah.
"Hey
Yeah.
man, how's it going?" And Tita's not having it. She's
Yeah.
just going off like, "What do you mean, fella or guy,
Yeah.
whatever?" And she's messing with him to the point where he just breaks.
Mhm, mhm.
And we end up having like a whole hour conversation just about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the end, they are my representation now for
Mm.
Tita, the animated series. And so, yeah, so that whole process, they hooked me up with a mentor who kind of pushed me to think about world and characters and like,
Mhm.
somebody who had a lot of experience in that. And I was really grateful for that because, they were asking questions that I didn't think about. And then there were questions that I had already thought about. So to give
Right.
myself credit, I kind of was already thinking of certain things. And then what happened was I wrote a pilot because they said, "Okay, do you have a pilot?" I said, "I have an idea for a pilot, but I don't have a pilot yet." It's okay, write a pilot, take your time with it. I said, "Cool." I probably took like 3 months to write it, maybe four. I took my sweet ass time to
Mm.
do it. And what I did was I didn't just present the pilot to them, but I created an audio companion that went with it.
Mm.
So if you're driving in your car and people sometimes they don't have time to read stuff. So I
Right.
go into that mentality. I said, well then you could just pop it in your car, whatever, turn it on and listen to the whole pilot. So the whole pilot
Mm.
was all the characters with sound effects and music. I mean, it was official.
Mm.
And they loved it, but they just felt like it needed some work and some assistance, like some
Right.
mentorship. And so that's when they got the mentor. So my whole thing was like, I was like, you know what? I'm fiending to create my pilot. I want to create my pilot. Like, I don't want to wait, even
Yeah.
though I'm very grateful for everything that has happened so far.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that has
But then,
happened. It's
yeah,
been great.
but then there's this other side when you start now mixing other people. Is the process takes longer. I remember what's
It
her
does,
name?
yeah.
Issa Rae was saying that like when she took her web series and with HBO, one of her frustrations was this waiting game in the process and developing it. She's like, at one point she was like, "Look, why am I waiting with you guys? Well, I could just I'm used to like just creating stuff and then putting it up." And I totally get that side of her too, and just like how you felt as well. So continue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just how I felt. And like I
Yeah.
said, I'm very grateful for all the steps, and by no means have I ever complained, because the fact that I've got somebody in my corner that believes in what I do,
Yeah.
and I still don't ask permission for like how I'm going to produce the stuff. I mean, they've loved everything I've done thus far. And so I knew that I was like, I want to create something that's special. I want to create my pilot. I'm going to do a Christmas episode because we grew up on Christmas shows, Christmas episodes, but there's never been like a Christmas episode that represents our community. So this is perfect. So then I think it was more so like I was fiending to create a TV episode of Tita, and I needed to do it. And so that was kind of the birth. I think that was the inspiration for creating the Christmas episode. But I also knew that I was like, this is cool, but I also want to feature what I consider to be funny
Hmm.
uh, personalities that are out there. So, when you look at the episode, you've got comedians like Tommy Peña, you've got Radel Ortiz, you've got I for me, I love the way Mel Brooks put a lot of his movies together where he just grabbed the funniest voices, and
Yeah.
and I love that stuff, where you can put funny people together
Yeah.
and create something that's really awesome. And that was my dream too with the Christmas
Mm.
episode. So
No, it's
that's
great.
kind of that's
Yeah.
kind of like how it sort of like led to that. I know I
Yes.
gave you a whole story, but
No, but it
that was what
perfect.
motivated, like, let's get this going.
Yeah. What would you like now? We're almost towards the end, but where do you want where do you want to take Tita? What is you don't have to give the next steps of like, what you got booked, but like where do you see you and Tita and where you want to take it for the future? And what do you want people to receive from it too as well? Not just maybe laughter, but like, you know, her confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole storyline for Tita that I'm looking forward to exploring.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm clear on seeing even herself
Mm.
transform along the way through her episodes. A lot of times you watch cartoons, and cartoons kind of stay the same. Like, that's kind
Yeah.
of the rules in cartoon world. Like, it's only the situations, just like sitcoms, that change, but the characters don't necessarily evolve. And I think she will evolve over time. She will go through her experiences because there is a storyline I want to do. But more importantly, I want a show like Tita to be at the level of like what The Simpsons was for
Mhm.
us, and to have longevity. I don't want
Mhm.
it to be like a one season, like a one off type thing. I want this thing to be special
Yeah.
and to live for a long time.
She definitely needs like a origin story, Like she's so colorful and you of course you got things up your sleeve. But she definitely deserved, before she became like discovering the many layers of Tita and taking us through those things to where she's at now because she wasn't always this woman that she is right now. She probably had that
Hmm.
attitude and that funk, but you could hear in her voice, like you said, that there's pain in there. So for me, I'm always interested of like, you know who is Tita? like
Mhm.
how she was growing up, following her not when she was young, but like, a crucial point of maybe her teenage years till now, the woman that she is. And I think this
Mhm.
what's so great is that just by her voice and what she's been sharing, you can tell that there's so many layers there, that there's so much that you can grasp and work with to take it to that level.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of those stories, because there's so much like nostalgia, right? When you go
Mhm.
back in time and with music and such a great way to preserve culture and history. And again, celebrating and normalizing, right? Because there's a lot of our younger folks that don't know that stuff, that can be
Mhm.
exposed to it, and it's really cool. But yeah, I think there's a lot of room. There's so much story. You're absolutely right. There's so much story to be shared. Like
Mm.
who was she before we met her in episode one?
Mhm.
Like you said, who was she as a teenager?
Mhm.
Who was she as a baby when she was inside
Mm.
her mother's belly?
What was something that you and Tita uh that you guys had conflict with? Because I would imagine that, like, you know while you're working on this stuff, she has a voice of her own, right? So like when
Hmm.
I would imagine, I could be wrong, that you her doing the voice and you living with her and you're trying to find this thing and you find it funny. But then you also have this other side of Victor, who's the human being, and what he likes and what he has to see. Has there been
Hmm.
times where you guys are clashing?
I don't think so. I think it's more so like she probably just reminds me to go,
Mm,
go. Like if I slow down, she might like
mm,
go. It's like, oh, okay. Don't be
nice,
afraid. Go. Like go over there and
nice.
tell them you want to do this kind of thing. So that's the only thing that I would say probably is, but never a clash of ideas because I'm like that kid that walks, the kid is his aunt or his
Hmm.
grandmother, and he's always
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
them. What I'm saying? Like I think I'm like that with Tita. Like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna hang out with her. She needs my help.
Mm,
She needs me to build this set. So okay, I'll help her. She wants to tell the story. All right, let's do it. And I'm okay with it. I'm happy. It
nice.
makes me really happy, to be honest
Mm,
with you. I think I'm at my happiest creating the cartoons. I don't feel as much pressure as even just like
mm,
just straight acting. This is acting. There's still acting involved. You still
right.
got to tell a story. You still got to, you know, play moments and things like
Mm,
that as the characters, but you don't think about it as much. You like kind
mhm,
of, it's like wearing a mask. You're completely free.
mm,
And I dig it. It truly makes me happy, like in a
mm.
in a big way.
How different is it for you, uh, uh, preparing to be her, right? Or writing something, then improvising something, and then actually seeing it, right? So where in acting, it's you playing, or you playing yourself, or you playing a character. There's work that needs to be done beforehand, and then once it takes on the stage, it elevates to something else. What was the preparation like with you? And I know you improv, but was there certain preparation that you did to get into her, to to uh, I guess be comfortable with that voice, and or prep to get into that body, or that that animation, because now you're doing it and then now you're seeing it. I would imagine it's two different worlds to put together.
That's a really good question, man. Because
You're
I,
welcome.
you thank you, sir. No, because you know what it is. It's like sometimes as actors, you tend to question too much.
Mm,
You like overthink the process, and to the point that like it's not as authentic as it should be
mm,
because you've overthought it, you've overspoken it, you've over like theories, and you romanticize these characters in a way that it's not real. Sometimes it
mm,
just doesn't feel real all the time. Like once in a while, you're okay with it.
yeah.
But I think with Tita, I never questioned if I knew her
Mm,
enough. Did I know her enough? Did I know how she would do this? I just knew how to do it. And so the level of confidence that I had, I never once questioned, is this authentic? The only thing I would question is, am I going to let Tita do that?
mm,
Because I don't think that's authentic to Tita. That's the only thing I would question, because sometimes people would say, I remember early on, people would say, "Oh, you got to do." Perfect example. Somebody approached me and said, um, I got a liquor company that will be interested in sponsoring Tita, and
Yeah.
and we can have Tita do these commercials, and they were going to pay me money to do it, and without a thought, without even thinking about it, I didn't even have to say, "Can I call you back?" I told them right there, absolutely not.
Mm.
I didn't even know how much money it was. It could have been $1 million, and I said
he
no.
was and he was like, "How about now?" He was like, "I'll call you back."
Guru. No.
No, he was like, "Stand by."
Ellipses. But I told them
Yeah.
straight up no,
Mm.
because I was very clear that that was not authentic for Tita.
Mm.
And also, liquor is not something that I want present as a thing. It's like the Flintstones when they first came out. Believe it or not, Flintstones used to be, this is before it became more catered to kids. They used to do like cigarette commercials.
Oh,
You
I
would see
didn't know
like
that.
Barney
Mhm.
Rubble and Fred Flintstone like holding cigarettes and stuff,
Mm.
because and then they later on they realized like that wasn't appropriate for them, because the show was
Mhm.
more catered to kids. They had to change like the advertisement. So for me, I was just like, no, absolutely not. And like people would say, oh, because the whole TikTok birth of TikTok
Yeah.
and what was happening that, and the people were like, oh, you should have Tita like dancing, and like it was always these like things of dancing or like
Yeah.
doing things that I just Tita dances,
Wasn't it?
sure.
It wasn't true to her. It wasn't.
It
It's
wasn't
not.
true to
It
her.
wasn't who she is.
And then
Yeah.
people were trying to argue with me that I wasn't thinking outside the box, or like this would make it more successful. And I would turn to them. I said, no, being authentic to the character is what's going to bring her success.
Mhm.
And I was very clear early on that that's what it had to be, because otherwise I would be cheating my character. I would be betraying her after this wonderful gift she gave me of being
Mhm.
birthed. I'm going to just do that to her. It's like
Right.
a baby. Are you going to take your daughter and then whore her out? That's your baby. You don't
But
do
for how
that.
much? $1 million?
$1 million.
Stand by.
Ellipses. Dot dot dot. Um,
No, absolutely. I agree. It's staying true to you and to her,
yeah,
and other
you don't do that.
opportunities will come to you. And it's not, it's not about the money. The money will be great, but it has to it has to sit well with the spirit to when the money comes. It's just not just a product. I have to stand by it. And what if, like for instance, that deal could have been totally different. It's like, hey, I got a line of children's books. I would be great if Tita would read some of these things for the children's books. We could market it. I bet
Hmm.
Tita would be like, great. What is let's work together.
See,
So,
that's different, right? Because that sits in an area where,
mm-hmm,
like, even like it's interesting. Tita doesn't use profanity at all.
mm-hmm,
There were two earlier episodes in which she may have used some profanity, and when you listen to it, you go, oh, well, you're surprised because you don't hear her talking like that now.
yeah,
And what really hit me was a lot of parents of kids, people I didn't even know from all over the country and everywhere, were sending me videos of their kids watching Tita on their tablets
mm,
and pictures, and saying, thank you for creating this, because now my child can listen to this story from the perspective of someone from our community. No longer do we have to hear it this way. It's such a fun way to listen to Jack and the Beanstalk or something, right? And so I realized that it was important to families. And I said, it doesn't make any sense for me to go that route. It's not to say she won't be edgy, but I don't need to necessarily live in a space where it's profane. You know what I'm
right,
saying? It doesn't have to be that. And you
right,
can still be edgy and you can still be very funny.
right,
So,
absolutely. I mean, and also this is like this is just a different layer of you where you as a comedian, you curse. It's not all the time, but you drop
oh yeah,
but you realizing that when you do her, it's not you, right? So
different
Tita,
person.
different
Yeah.
person. She can
Hmm.
do stand up, and she will is not. I feel like even when she talks, how can I say this? When she talks, if almost it's so real and truthful that it's as if like you can imagine what the F words would be, or the you know what I'm saying? Like she don't have to say it to you get the intent of the feeling of fuck this or shit or whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's right. You can feel the intention.
Right.
It's there. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
need, and it's not to say like I profanity is fun.
Yeah.
It's not to take away from
Yeah.
like when it can be fun and like that I'm by no means am I like above like you just said like when I'm on stage now I'm probably not the nicest person in the world. Like I
Yeah.
snap on people in the audience. I'll curse.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say. I had a woman complain to me recently. She reached out to me and said how much she loved Tita, but she did not like how I spoke to her during my stand up. So it was almost like Tita was a separate person. I love Tita, but I don't really like how you spoke to
Right.
me. And I didn't like the jokes you made of me.
Mm.
So it's just interesting. They can still separate the
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
I think that's the whole
And
person,
then
and I appreciate it.
the bookers is like, "Hey, Vic, well, we want Tita back. Unfortunately, we don't want you back.
Wow. Oh, wait. How much are you gonna pay, Tita?
$1 million."
Stand by. And for that reason, I'm out.
But that's I think that's I mean, it speaks to you, it speaks to the character. I think a lot of people of there will still listen to Victor, the creator, not Tita.
Yeah.
You know, that they got a lot of lessons here, messages like, you know, here you are, created something out of nothing, right? Where you had an idea, you had a dream, you had the time, didn't know how to pursue it, but kept finding a way to create it, to pursue it.
Hmm.
And by going through the roughness of everything, the rough drafts and stuff like that, you kept finding a way and you did it. And it got to where it needs to be today, where you found how to, it's a well oiled machine. And of course, there's other things you're going to keep learning to make things better, to learn how to do things easier. And also when you reach that point of how people it's catching fire and everybody all of a sudden now uh everyone wants to be your manager in a sense, want to give you 2 cents of how you what's the next thing that they should see or how she should say it. And it's just like, no, I appreciate the love, but I'm staying true to who I am and she's staying true to who she is. And I'm not afraid to say no. And this does not sit well with our spirit. So standing up for yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that's a great example as an artist to keep doing, as a creative and as a human being. A lot of people can learn from that. For me, it's refreshing to hear because you cut from the same cloth. I'm the same way. I wouldn't want to do it. You know. So yeah, man, kudos to you. And I'm super proud of you and everything that you was able to create and gain from this. You know, like I said, I'm on the outside, was inspired. You know, that inspired me to create my web series where I'm like, okay, now he's doing it. He took the time to do it. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take the time, and I had the idea that was sitting with me. Let me take the time to do it, and I'll figure out the rest as I go. Um, but it was something that I wanted to do as well. But I just, it was something that it was great to see and inspiring. Especially you fucking animate. You know what I'm saying? Like you're an animator. You know what I'm saying? And that's a huge deal. You added another title to your journey that you didn't know anything about besides just drawing, but you executed it and you had the pieces around you that just fell in place. And I think that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it was my original dream,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a beautiful thing that which is probably why it brings me the most joy because I
Mm,
get to live in my 11-year-old self, right?
mm.
And live in that dream. So it's very cool.
So we have this segment where I've been shuffling cards, right? And this is
Hmm.
this is where I feel where Tita's gonna come out. And so we got to know you, and these cards they just ask two questions, right? And I've been
Hmm.
shuffling them, and I'm just gonna pick one, and I'm gonna read them to you. But I wouldn't. I actually, you know what? I want you to answer them, and then I want Tita to answer them. And if you
Okay.
need to disappear or whatever to do her voice, if you don't want people to see you do the voice, it's whatever you want. But I would love to hear Tita's take on this, and then your take. So, who do you want to? Who should I ask first?
Doesn't matter. It's your
All right,
choice.
let's do Tita. So, hey, Tita, how you doing? I'm a huge fan of yours. Thank you so much for. I know you're busy for doing a quick 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I got two questions I want to ask you, and that's
Hi,
in.
Nene. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Fíjate, I'm so excited for you. Hi, and I love your show with the fathers. Hi, there's not enough fathers out there, shows about fathers. So congratulations on that. Hi, Nene, when you're gonna get naked again? Because I know you'll be doing those naked shows like the Dominican Magic Mike. All right,
Thank
talk to
you.
me. What's your
Thank you.
question?
So, Tita, the first question is, what's one thing you could do to take better care of yourself?
Hi, well, the first thing you could do is drink more water. Hi, because you need water. Because if you don't have water in your body, you won't have no blood. And if you don't have no blood, you're gonna be alive. Like if a vampire comes to try to bite you, they're gonna be like, oh, there's only air in there.
Okay, great. And this is the next question. If you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the mind or body of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which one would you want?
Hi, can you ask the question again?
Oh, yeah, I know. It was a big, lengthy one.
Yeah, that was lengthy. That was really long. I got bored in
You,
the
you,
middle.
you want to do another one? I could do a different
Hi,
one.
that was like a very descriptive. You didn't write that, did you?
No, I was shuffling the cards, Tita. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
nene, pick another card.
Okay.
That card doesn't like me. It's got too many
Okay.
words.
What's the best? This is good. What's the best piece of advice you ever been given?
The best piece of advice. Sometimes you have to walk through shit to get to sugar. Yeah, and I like sugar. I like azúcar for my coffee.
Can you elaborate that? Like, okay, who told you that?
Hi, there was a lady. There was a lady that I used to work with. Her name was Charlotte. Hi, she used to give me all this advice. She's like, you need to sometimes walk through shit to get to sugar. And I was like, hey, what does that mean? Because sometimes in life, you gotta walk through a lot of crap just to get to the good stuff. And you gotta be patient.
I love that. Well, Tita, thank you so much.
But sometimes you get shit on your shoes and then it takes forever to get up. And I be putting my sneakers in the faucet. Doesn't be taking out the caca.
I hate when that happens. That's the worst.
I
They say it's good
hate
luck,
it.
but it's horrible to take out.
And then you put it in the washing machine. Your sneakers are never the same.
You're so right. Tita, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so
Ay,
much.
nene, thank you. Que Dios te bendiga,
Thank
okay?
you. Thank you. So Victor,
Yes, I'm here.
it's awesome to talk to Tita, by the way. I think that was the first time. Well, no, Tita sent me personal bills, but that was the first time to actually speak to her live. So I want to ask, I changed up the questions. If you were to die today, what
You got me a new deck?
Yeah, very new deck, because the other one's man long. This is another lengthy one, but it's like, I think it's to the point. Let's try it. If you were to die today, what would you most regret not having told someone? Why haven't, oh damn, it's two-part. And why haven't you told them yet? Damn.
That wow. Just depends on who it is, It could be the truth.
Mm.
I don't know. That's a tough one,
Mm.
because give me another card. Come on, that's tough.
Okay. You're the first
What else you
guest-
got there?
You're the first guest that I actually shuffled all these cards for. Like, this is like the third
Shuffle
one.
them right. It's like a new deck. You're getting the same color like an Uno. You got to make sure it's mixed in.
What irrational fears do you have now?
What irrational fears do I have now? Define that question for me.
I guess
right now.
Well, I guess like I don't know how I take it is like what are some relevant fears you have now? Like, of course in the beginning, right? Maybe it was, the fear of going on stage, right? But now you continue to grow as a person, you became confident as a person to go on stage. But what are some relevant fears or fear that you have now? I think at one point you shared with Tita that you were scared to press publish on a 7-minute video. That was a relevant fear.
My fear is probably to get comfortable, to be complacent. Another fear is just walking out of my house, just it's a crazy world out there. New York City, baby.
New York City is fucking back to the 80s.
Back to the 80s, man.
Yeah.
And some lady got doo-doo in her face the other day on the train.
Really?
My God. Yeah. I know she was like listening to music. La la la. And so so the guy went to jail, but then they let him out, So
I mean, how long can you hold a guy in jail for throwing shit?
Well, he smeared it. That's different, right?
Uh,
Maybe he was trying to create art. I don't know. I don't want to judge
Probably, yeah,
artists.
yeah. That's so fucked up. You there fucking listening to music before you had to like worry about somebody jerking off. That was like one of your
Yeah,
worries. Then you just got
yeah.
then you got like consumed. You're just like, all right, he does that.
Wait, was the guy jerking off first before like getting pickpocketed? I'm just curious how you're thinking.
Mm. Well, I feel like there was. I think we just get so immune to the dangers around us that
Yeah,
now like someone putting shit on your face is like not even in your head anymore. Like
you're not
or what
thinking that. You're
or
not
even a
thinking.
thought. It was like, man, like we did that when we was young. If we had that thought, as a child, like oh doo doo, and like, but like, but like you're an adult now. You're like, okay, what's my morning gonna be like? I'm gonna have delays in the train. There might be a homeless person jerking off, or he
Yeah,
might just stink, and I'll just go to the next cart. And you
yeah.
just you're immune to that, right? So you go to work and you're like, whatever, I just sit there. But then this one particular day, this guy decided to change the script. And literally
What if I
one
put doodoo on her face?
yeah, right? He was like, I'm gonna fuck it up for someone tonight. Today, they think they're going to work and it's to say they think I'm gonna jerk off today. But no, but
There was
no.
another guy in the train like, nah, I can't play with my shit on the train. You know, all you want to do is play with shit on the train.
Yep.
Now he can't,
And then he just flipped the fucking script and he fucking smeared shit in somebody's face. Yo, New York City, man.
That's crazy,
I
man.
don't miss it. I don't miss it. This next question is a good one. And this is if you have or were to have children, which you do,
Hmm.
what is one gift or lesson you would like to share with them? And I think I know you as a father, you have shared lessons, but I would like to switch this like what is a lesson that you are excited to share with them when they're older, right? You know, because it's a different dialogue when you guys are maybe they're in teenage years or they found a passion, or maybe they're adults now, so they see a lot of things that they couldn't see when they was younger, when you used to like reprimand them, whatever. So, what's a lesson that you're excited to share with them uh, when they're older?
The only thing that comes to my mind, and I think it's just an ongoing thing, is just letting them know that they are truly, truly special,
Mm,
that they're unique, that there's only them. There's no other version of them. That what they have to offer is awesome. That's
mm,
really awesome. And then to support that on a daily basis,
mm,
whether they're in the same house as me or if they no longer live with me, that I call them to remind them just how amazing they are, because it's not something that was common, with the exception of my mom. My mom probably did that for me, but I didn't necessarily grow up with those kind of thoughts, so instilling that, I think, and of course, it's up to the person to receive it or hear it, and then sometimes they don't hear it till later. So it's not like what you say is gonna work when you say it.
mm.
I don't know if that really answers that question, but that's the only thing that could come to me, because it's important to me that they know that they are special, and that they're awesome, that they never have to ever doubt or let anybody tell them that they're not, because it sucks to think that you're not worth anything.
And it sucks to have shit smirched in your face.
But if they paid you $1 million,
Stand by.